So this is an algorithmic drum sequencer that I built in Max MSP. And basically the way it works is we have this grid here, which has 16 columns, each representing 1/16th note in a 1-measure 4/4 bar. And when I move the slider, basically when I hit the start beat button, that will generate a number which corresponds to the position of the slider. That is compared against a random number generated between 1 and 100, and depending on which one is greater, it may or may not send a bang to this grid sequencer object here, which essentially creates the beat and then is routed to either play out through Max Audio or to Ableton if you're hooked up with Max for Live. So basically, this slider then controls the probability of any given sample playing on that subdivision of the beat. Now these samples are some default samples you might use, but you could load any samples and it would work the same way. So other features are the tempo. You can set the tempo with BPM here. We also have this repeat mode. So if you turn this off, then each measure a new pattern will be generated. If you turn it on, then whatever the current pattern is for that measure will be repeated until you turn it back off. So I'll demonstrate that in a bit. And then the other cool feature is this complexity knob right here. And this basically controls the density of the beat. So the lower it is, you're going to have a less dense beat with less notes, and the higher it is, you'll have a more dense beat with more notes. Other than that, the only other things to show, so I have some presets here, which basically have some predefined values for these sliders, and the way I generated those was with this Midi Parser here. So I basically loaded in a lot of different MIDI files of drum beats, parsed them into basically a histogram, smaller, parsed them into a histogram down here, and then read that data, and that informed what the preset values would be. And then this is just a sequencer to load your samples. If you play it out of Max, you can load your samples here, and then it will play it out of this step sequencer. To demonstrate, I'm going to use the Ableton option. So it's just hooked up to Ableton for Live. It's very simple to set up. You just take your channel, MIDI from Max 1, and you're good to go. So I have a kit loaded here, so now I'll just start the sequencer, mess around with some of the parameters and some different samples in Ableton, and show you how it works. That's basically how it works. There's a little bit of lag at the end there. I'm running this off my laptop, but if you were running this on a stronger computer, you shouldn't have any problems with that. So the last thing I'll show you is a demo that I put together using this drum sequencer in Ableton, and all of the material, all of the drums and percussion are generated with this sequencer. Actually, all the material, the melodic material, is also generated algorithmically in Max with a different patch, which is similar but uses a different technique than this patch does. But all of this music is generated algorithmically, and it gives you an idea of this kind of what you can do with this probabilistic music.